Hey guys, it's your boy Joe back at it again, CodingPhase.com. In this video, we're going to be looking at the top email frameworks for email development. Okay, so yeah, man, let's get started, man. All right, cool. We're going to start with a couple of things, right? Because believe it or not, there's not that many email frameworks, right? What there is out there a lot of is basically boilerplates that people have created. And basically just email developers that, have created their own shortcuts, right? Or created their own library of components or things that they have created over the years just to save them time. And now they're sharing it online on GitHub and in other platforms. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one here, which is emailframework.work. Okay, this right here is pretty much a boilerplate. If you look over here, how this works is you have a HTML file, right? This is the boilerplate.html. It shows you how to set up some grids, right? You can have a fluid example, you can have a hybrid, you can have a grid master templates, right? Some examples here. You can see the spacing for mobile, how to actually do it, right? So technically, all it's really giving you is the HTML and just showing you, hey, this is how you actually do this. This is how you do something for mobile, or this is how you do something for, let's say, your components and for your content area. This is how you do a row. This is how you're spacing. This is how you do your links, etc. So technically, it's just a boilerplate. Another one that we have right here is Acorn, right, which is very similar to that one, where they give you all of the basically HTML that you need in the basic CSS. Think of it like a CSS reset for you to get started to start building HTML emails, right? You also have over here things like this, like your grid, how to actually build a grid, and they give you the examples. Okay, from there you also might have content, like you see information like how to do a CSS reset for emails, how to do typography, how to do images, background images, how to set up utilities for like alignment or spacing, also to displays, right, text, etc., right, reverse stack. So in here it shows you how to do that. You can look at the code on how it actually comes out. So again, this, if you look at the documentation, is technically more of a boilerplate, because all it's really doing is just giving you the HTML for it. It's not actually generating it for you. So that's the difference between what I consider a boilerplate and what I consider a framework. Okay, so again, that was Acorn. Another one we have here is by Sean Powell, email boilerplate. This is another one, pretty straightforward. Just very simple. It just shows you like email, how it should look, right, just to get you started. And then from there you have the areas where you can start building your actual email, right? Again, think of it like a CSS reset. Another one we have here is G13 and N. You see the email framework that he has. Again, I hate that they use the word email framework when in reality they're like boilerplates. Okay, again, you have components, right? So for example, you can see how you will create a border radius for a button, and it will show you right here the HTML for it and how you can actually do this. So again, this is a good example of this. One thing that I want to mention for everybody is look at the years. Okay, the last time that this thing has been committed to was like 6 years ago. Okay, 5 years ago, right? And you're gonna see that throughout all of the projects here. HTML emails are basically, very basic, projects, right? And they don't change, right? Like a lot of the things that we're doing today in 2022 is very similar to the same thing that they were doing in the 90s for emails. So most of these email clients, they do not change, right? If you're using Yahoo or Gmail or Hotmail, MSN, etc., they have like the little things like maybe a CSS property that one actually supports and another one doesn't support it. But technically, it's just HTML tables. Okay, so in reality, like there's a lot of things that don't change. So even though you might see something 5-6 years ago, don't get scared and be like, well, is this the latest version? Is this the latest code, right? and we're gonna get into that a little bit once we get to foundation. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Okay. Now another thing that you're gonna see here, kilogram, is from the dude on the horse. And what he did here, this is more of a hybrid. So what he did was he created a basically like a gulp comment task, right? Basically just a bunch of a gulp, tasks to be able to build HTML email and just to get started. Again, he says in here, it works for all of these in here. So shout out to him for creating that service. And again, 5-6 years ago is the last time that this thing was updated. Okay, the industry does not change, right? When it comes to HTML emails. Okay, the next thing that we have here is Hamil, and I would consider Hamil more of a actual framework because it's actually taking some type of syntax to generate the HTML and CSS for you. Okay, so if we go in here, we check out the get started documentation, right? You can see here you have this tag. So let me see if I can zoom in so you can see it. You have this Hamil tag, then you have your head, your body tag, right? You have things in here like, let's say, subject, preview, right? You can see how you will do a layout, right? You will create a container. You could go in and use a tag called row, and then from there you could create a column, right? So again, this is something that's gonna go in and generate the HTML and CSS for you, okay? So this is what I will consider more of a framework. Again, you have your styling using CSS to show you how to actually set this up. Okay, you have your overview, right? You got your meta elements, you have your styles, your typography, your block, right? You have your images, how to actually work with images, right? Your buttons, your links. Okay, so again, this is more of a framework. I'm gonna click here on GitHub to see like when was the last time it was updated. As you can see, it's 4 years ago. All right, now the next one we have here is Foundation Framework, and this one is using Foundation email docs. So you could go in here, it's called Foundation Emails. And basically this is another one that's been around for a long time ago, right? It used to be called Ink. Now it's called basically Foundation Emails or Foundation for Emails. And it show you the differences over here of like what they have, right? You also have more information over here, like let's say for if you're using Ink, right? Or using new components, etc. But this one is a little bit different. This one is more of a framework. Like I said, it shows you more things that you can do with this and how to actually like set this up. You can do this with like classes. Again, you put in a certain class and it will basically add those styles to this specific class or to this specific tag, right? It also shows you different ways to create buttons, right? Different sizing. This is more like a CSS framework that's actually going to be used to build HTML emails. But again, they have a lot of good examples in here, and this is what we actually use. Okay, this is what we actually use on CodingPhase.com when we teach you about emails and how to use frameworks to build an email, right? Technically, what we do on CodingPhase.com, for those of you guys that don't know, right, definitely go visit CodingPhase.com. You can click here, career path, HTML email developer. You can see that we teach you everything from scratch, you know, how to use a text editor, HTML, CSS, how to use a terminal, CSS Flexbox grid, SAS, Get Like a Pro, practical JavaScript, Node and NPM basics. Then we teach you how to actually build HTML emails from scratch and how to do them responsive, right? So we teach you how to go through that process there. And then here in HTML email frameworks, we talk about Foundations Inc., right? Which is now called Foundation Emails or Foundation for Emails. So this is the one that we use. Now, some people love this, some people hate this. And I'm gonna be honest with you, right? I'm gonna tell you two things right now. Number one, right? The reason why most people love this is because you have full control of your emails. Okay, like it helps you out a lot with a lot of the things to generate your HTML tables and just to organize things. But what is really cool and like powerful with is like being able to add like a JSON file, and you can generate the emails through there, or even you can connect it to your own server. Let's say, for example, you have a company, you can set up a foundation, and then from there you can go in and generate your templates for your emails directly with whatever server you might be using. So again, there's a lot of cool things that Foundation Inc. and a foundation for emails you can do with this framework. Okay, so it's very powerful. But I do want to mention this: a lot of people have issues getting to install everything and having everything to work for them, and it's because they're not using the latest version, or they are using the latest version of Node.js. Remember when I was mentioning on every single project here, I kept telling you guys, hey man, you see this project 5-6 years ago, right? 5-6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. Most of these projects are going to be updated. The last time, look at this one, 10 years ago. You get what I'm saying? Like, this was the last time that this thing got updated, right? And it's the same thing with Foundation, okay? So to be able to run Foundation, you're going to have to use a previous version of Node.js. You're not going to just go in and say, well, let me install the latest current version of Node.js, version 18.5.0, right? There might be things that are not going to work with that version of Foundation. So you're going to have to go in and install something called NVM, Node Version Manager, okay? A lot of people don't know this, right? And they have issues installing Foundation. So I want to go in and clear that up. The best version to install Foundation is using Node version 14.16.1. That's going to give you the latest version of Node till that time. And then from there, you're going to have everything work for you nice and smooth. Okay? If you don't have that version, guess what? You're going to have a whole bunch of problems and errors. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right? So again, the other thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is when you go in and you use any of these frameworks or any of those boilerplates, take this shit out of your head, right? This idea that you need to have the latest version, right? You need to have the latest updated whatever, right? Like, for example, people hit me up all the time. It's like, yay, when was this course created? And I'm like, bro, it was created in 2019. We come in, we add extra sections in 2020, right? We just added some new sections in 2021. But initially, it was built in 2019, right? And some people will be like, well, this course is outdated. And it's like, bro, like, no, it's not. This is web development, but for emails. This is not JavaScript, guys. Okay, keep this in your head. Okay, and take that shit out of your head. I'm like, yo, you do not need to be working on the latest version when it comes to emails. This is something that people have been doing since the 90s. A lot of the things that you're doing on emails right now are literally from the 90s. A lot of the strategies and techniques that we're using to this day are from the 90s. Okay, so keep this in your head. Okay, like, yo, this is how it works. Okay, this is not JavaScript. Okay, so again, that's something that I wanted to mention, because I see a lot of people when they go into Foundation or they use any of the frameworks or they take any course, they be like, man, I want to have the latest version. It's like, bro, this is not JavaScript. This is not something that you got to be updating on a weekly version. Like, nah, you don't need that. Dudes be waiting, yo, when's the nightly version coming out? It's like, bro, there is no nightly version. Like, there's dudes right now using something from 10 years ago. Like, them. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is emails, bro. Okay, now another framework that we have here is MJML. Okay, a lot of people like this, especially beginners. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because MJML is very simple to use, and as far as like the installation, everything works how it's supposed to work. Like, is pretty straightforward. Think of it like this: MJML is like its own application. Okay, you can actually install it through using something like npm, right? You can download it and download the CLI and get started, but you can also go in and install the application itself. Okay, again, this is very cool, very simple, right? And it looks more modern, but it's also pretty old. You get what I'm saying? Like, you go in and you be like, hey, when was this created? It's like, yo, 5 years ago, right? 7 years ago it started. You start looking into like any major updates, right? You might see some major updates like, you know, maybe 5 days ago when they add an extra component, but the core of it, it was basically from back in the days, bro. Okay, so none of these frameworks are new. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. But yeah, so foundation is actually pretty cool to just get started with. You don't have to do much. You could even install an application. It allows you to set up the CLI, or you can go in and set up download the actual app itself, right? You could do npm, right? You could do the path. You could even do the application, and also too, it has a lot of support in VS Code, Atom, right? Sublime, right? So a lot of people like this, especially for like the autocomplete, right? You can try it out live on the website. You can see how it actually works. You have an MJML tag, you have your MJML body, you could create a section, right? From there you have your column, right? So it just says MJ. I could copy this, for example, like this, the same thing, right? MJ column, copy this here, paste this there, and there we go. That's simple. We just created 2 columns. Okay, so again, MJML is pretty cool and very easy to use and to get started with. The only thing that I do find with MJML is that there's a lot of limitations to it, right? It will get you started to start setting up what you need for an email, but I could tell you that with Foundation, I've found that it's much easier to manage and to create things. But again, this is how it will go in and basically export the file for you, right? So it will go in and generate the HTML for you. But again, it's up to you if you want to go in and use something like MJML. As you can see, this is how it looks on mobile. This is how it looks on desktop. Right, and there's a lot of cool things, right? The documentation is very easy. We're actually going to be adding a course for MJML on CodingPhase.com for the people that love it. Me personally, like I said, I'm more of a foundation type of guy, just because you can use this again with different frameworks. You could use this with a whole bunch of different things, right? In a whole bunch of different situations. For example, like if you're building a custom software as a service, you can use MJML to generate your transactional emails, right? And have everything automated through Foundation Inc. and Panini, right? Now with this, what you will have to do is you will have to go in, create it on MJML, and then export the HTML, then take the HTML and implement whatever service you're using. For example, like let's say using Laravel templates or something like that, Laravel Blade, then you will have to go in and implement Laravel Blade through this. So it's a little bit more of like, it shows you in the beginning that's easy, right? But once you go in and you grow more as an email developer or as a software engineer, you're gonna notice that you're gonna need more control, right? But this is great for people to get started with, okay? Especially if you're gonna be freelancing, I think this could be really easy for some of you guys. Now, one thing that I want to mention, okay, and this is another like major disclaimer, okay, is yes, we are seeing a bunch of boilerplates, we are seeing a bunch of emails in here, but I want you guys to keep this in mind, okay? Just because you're using a framework, right? Just because you're using a framework, don't use the framework to skip steps. Use a framework to speed up the process that you already have, okay? So what do I mean by that? If right now you're still learning how to build HTML emails, right? How to work with tables. For example, you can't figure out how to do a header, or how to actually build, I don't know, build like a footer, or build a 4-column layout, and then from there make it go stack up on mobile, and you can't figure that out right on your own, and you can't do it again by hand doing HTML tables and CSS, etc. Right? If you can't do that, you should not be using any of these frameworks. Maybe the boilerplates, but definitely not MJML, and definitely not Foundation. Okay, because what this is going to do is going to become a crutch. There's things that you're not going to be able to do by yourself, but you're going to go in and say, oh, let me go use MJML. And what happens is that, remember, MJML is going to export, right? Or even Foundation is going to export HTML to do HTML CSS to do a certain thing for you, but it's exporting that for you. Okay, you're doing it through whatever syntax it is on MJML, and it exports the HTML CSS for you. Okay, now if you don't know how to go into that HTML CSS, right, and take out the things that you need to implement it to MailChimp, to implement it to Salesforce, how to use AmpScript, how to set up certain things, how to loop over certain things like for products, or maybe you're using Drip and you're using Shopify's Liquid template engine, right? And you don't know how to actually do this yourself with HTML tags and CSS. Like, you're gonna go in there and you're gonna be like, how do I fix this? How do I actually build this, right? Because remember, this is going to generate the HTML CSS for you. So if you don't know how to actually do it yourself, it's going to be kind of difficult for you to go in and like I said, to go in there and, let's say, for example, I have this section here, right? Section and section, and then I have one with 3 columns on the top, or 2 columns on the top, and then this one has 3 columns, right? When we go into the HTML, if you don't understand what's happening in here and you don't know your way around this, guess what? You're gonna have a lot of problems, because you're not gonna be able to customize this or fix any errors or any problem that might come up in the future. Okay, so this is something that you need to keep in mind. All right. So, all right, again, I'm just giving you guys that little disclaimer to make sure you guys succeed. All right, guys. Now, listen, if you want to learn how to code, you want to learn how to build HTML emails, as you can see, guys, there's a lot of opportunities out here. Literally, you could go on Indeed.com, search HTML, or search HTML email developer, or email marketing specialist, right? Or even like this one, email developer. And you will see a lot of opportunities in there, from $39 to $46, sometimes even more, depending on experience, right? You see $58,000, $70,000, right? This is a great job to get started with. And as you can see, you're not actually going in and needing a lot of work, right? Sorry, guys, internet disconnected. I don't know why, but yeah, so you're not gonna need a lot of things from here, like as far as like skills. You don't have to be an expert in JavaScript. You don't have to be an expert in some backend language. This is just HTML, CSS, and companies are willing to pay top dollar, right? That's a great starting point for you to get into the industry, learn about web development, and learn within the industry. So if you're interested in that, definitely come to CodingPhase.com, right? We will go in and teach you everything that you need. I will definitely recommend you guys to get started with a Diamond membership, right? If you want to get access to all the HTML email courses, okay? But you can always get started with a Gold membership if you want to. All right? So anyways, man, it's your boy Joe back at it again, CodingPhase.com. Your boy is back, and I done did it again one more time. Peace.